Oh, I guess it's a holiday for everybody. I don't like that. I thought I was about to talk to somebody just now. Yo, good morning, what's good? Blue Lions. St. Nicholas himself. How's it going this morning, bro? Yo, what's good? Miss Adrian. What's up with you? It's breakfast time. I'm trying to get this breakfast sandwich in me real quick. Oh yeah. Um, this is the first Martin Luther King Day that my job gave us off. So they let us know this year we're gonna get 2 extra paid holidays: Martin Luther King Day, and we get motherfucking Juneteenth off this year. So I'm like, that's what's up. That's not bad. You know what I'm saying? Because we already got like every other major holiday off paid. But you toss 2 more on there, I'm good with that. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't got no work today. Thank you, Dr. King, for all your work that you've done to progress American culture. I get paid, and I don't even gotta go to work. I don't know, cause for a long time his birthday been like a national holiday, but it's not a federal holiday. I mean, say we should have been having Martin Luther King. I remember going to school on that day. Don't nobody need to do shit. That's a holiday. Sit your ass down and relax. I swear, yo. I was like, and even when they made Juneteenth an official like national holiday, I already see like the capitalistic mentality of this country was just going to try to monetize it into some shit where, oh, let's buy our Juneteenth ice cream. Let's buy our Juneteenth t-shirts. And it's all made by people that don't look like us, but they just want to hop on the bandwagon and snatch a few dollars up real quick because it's cool, it's popular, it's trendy. Let's support Juneteenth. And so when they made it a national holiday, I already saw that aspect of it coming. And it was like, you motherfuckers are just going to try to commoditize this shit and make it into like a money thing. But if you give me the day off work and pay me for it, I guess I can overlook all that shit. I guess I can overlook that. That you're just trying to take something that we've been celebrating for hundreds of years and turn into like this national buy a card day or buy a t-shirt day, and just like that's not what Juneteenth is for. I understand that's what you guys are going to do with it. But if you give me the day off, I'll sit back and I won't say nothing. I can see what's going on, but I'll stop speaking on it. You feel me? It be like that sometimes. Um, Today we will be starting a new painting. Everybody be wanting to talk about giants and shit now. Oh, you seen the giants in California? And now they got like giants. They said there was like some giant creatures in Miami. You see the little people? I've been on this giant thing, yo. I really think that giants existed one time. And they look like this. They weren't some scary monsters with fangs and gnarly long claws or no. They was a very advanced race of beings that looked a lot like me, is what I'm thinking. So after I get that after I get this sandwich in me, I'm gonna start whipping up on some brushes. Oh man, that coffee hot. What everybody got going on this morning though? I hope everybody woke up in a good mood on the right side of the bed, so we can all fellowship and partake in the memory of what was Dr. King. I'll tell everybody, I got a whole lot of respect for the legacy of Dr. King. I still like Malcolm X better. I'm just saying. I mean, if I was alive at that period, during like the early and mid 60s, you know, if I was there at that time, I really feel like I probably would have just joined the Nation of Islam, yo. I've been like, fuck it. I don't think I would have did the Dr. King shit. I ain't even gonna lie. All the marching and protesting and sit-ins and all that shit, man, fuck all that shit, bro. And the sons of God saw the daughters of man, and took unto them all who they pleased. And they created the Nephilim, the great ones, the mighty ones, the men of renown. And once God saw this, he was unpleased and regretted making man, and decided to wipe out all the life that had the breath of God within it. I know where it come from. So if they was talking about it way back then, the Bible comes from the Middle East. So if they're talking about giants in the Middle East, and then you got people in China who talk about giants, then you got people in South America who talk about giants, and then you got ancient cultures in North America who talk about giants. There's something to that shit. There's definitely something to the belief that giants actually existed. Everybody talk about it. Everybody. But who were these giants? Where did they come from? Were they a completely different type of being, a different species, or a more advanced species of humans, or were they something completely different? And that's what the thing is. People don't really like to talk about giants because the deeper you dig into history, the darker people get. The further and further you go back trying to find shit from the ancient past, there's not a lot of light skin or pale skin or white or Caucasians. Everything just dark brown and black people. The further you dig, shit just get more darker and more blacker. Motherfuckers don't like that. So they say, oh, there is no such thing as giants. Are you sure? Are you really sure? Or you just hate to admit that this ancient group of advanced beings who created culture and civilization and handed it down to man was actually some tall ass black motherfuckers. This is true, Big Rob. They might have just been a bunch of tall ass Negroes, some space Negroes. People don't like that concept. Bro, all the doors were huge as fuck. All the steps are big as hell. Why do you need a door so big? Why do you need steps that are so tall? Why is all the ancient megalithic structures built with giant blocks? I mean, blocks weighing 100 tons. These were big people. These were huge people. And they came with a knowledge and a wisdom and an understanding. And they tried to bequeath that to the human race. And they were the pyramid builders. So, just trying to throw some of this in the artwork. For BFDI, hi. What does that mean? The skeletons were hidden. Rob already knows the deal, bro. Like, the Smithsonian, they don't want them skeletons on display. They ain't gonna show you none of that stuff, man. That's all hidden mysteries. Can't tell y'all what really going on this planet. Appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? And so now, like, this whole giant thing is getting really popular again. So I feel like, let me just go ahead and put my art out there. Because I've been on this shit. Yeah, they lied about what we see on the hieroglyphs. I'll go to my Facebook page now and show y'all the shit that I'll be posting. I'm on YouTube and Insta right now. Let me bring y'all over here. So we go to my Facebook page. Now once again, this is a carving of a statue. Why would they make a man look that big compared to a lion if it wasn't fucking real? Look how he's holding the lion like a little fucking kitten. You would have to be huge. So did the Sumerians just make this shit up? Were they just imagining stuff from a fever dream? Or was this actually something that they saw in their real life? Here's an early rendition of the image I'm working on now. The giant Nephilim gods coming back. Look at this carving right here. Why is he so much taller? This person down here barely comes up to his kneecap. Why would they depict something like this? And most people say, oh, because they were important people and they had a lot of influence and dominance, and so they portrayed them as larger than life, as being these huge, grand people when they were actually just normal size. But their aura or their personality was just giant, so they depicted them this way. I don't think so. I think these people were actually fucking giants. These stones right here. Who the fuck carved that stone? And why? Why would you need a stone that fucking big? Who did that? Why would somebody carve stones that big? underwater glyphs. You can only see from the sky because they're so huge. You can't see them when you're on the land. That means somebody had to be able to look down on this shit. Somebody been flying. But yeah, y'all go to my Facebook. I'll be posting a lot about the giants and the Nephilim and ancient Sumerians and the Anunnaki, the ones who from heaven to earth came. I really do give a lot of credit to the Sumerian Anunnaki story. I think that's probably the most accurate rendition of the creation story that we have. Is that motherfuckers made us. Yeah, motherfuckers just made humans from some advanced hominid that was already here, and somebody else just made us. Is there people alive today that know the history that was wiped? I would almost definitely say there are people who have more knowledge than the average person. They may not know the whole story or, you know, the true origin of whatever, but they have a deeper understanding than the average person. The Ark was a spaceship. See, now you're getting into that shit, bro. So you should watch this old ass anime called Spriggan. 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 If you've never seen that anime, Google it real quick just so you can have it on tab. Spriggan. Spriggan. Or is it Gaan? Spriggan? You'll figure it out. Spriggan. It's a Japanese animated film that talks about Noah's Ark, and Noah's Ark not being just some boat made out of wood. It is definitely, Noah's Ark was some type of device or machine. Check out Spriggan, bro. If you say Noah's Ark was a spaceship, you'll really enjoy that movie. Yes, they did. So, I'm thinking like humans may have been tampered with in the early past, and that's where we pick up our memory from, is when like humans first came into existence. But everything prior to that, like the origin of our progenitors, the ones that created us, I don't think anybody really knows their origin. Where did they come from? Who created them? Are they the first prototype from a creator god? Did they evolve? Is this a simulation that they've created? It's not even perhaps, bro. That's the whole story. Their planet was dying. They needed a way to repair their atmosphere. They figured out that suspending gold particles would be the best type of solution to rehab their planet. They didn't have enough of this mineral or this ore. They sent astronauts out to look for this shit. They came here to our star system, found Mars and Earth, and mined the hell out these shits. Got tired of doing it and said, you know what? We'll just make some workers to do this shit because we don't want to do this anymore. And so they created man. And once again, if you go to the Bible, the second page of the Bible, when God describes the Garden of Eden, he tells you where the garden is at. The garden is at the end of this river that splits into four heads, and he put the garden here. And then God says, and there is gold there. He doesn't just say that. He says after that, he says, and the gold is good. I've asked everybody who swears up and down they know the Bible, why does God say that? Why in the very beginning of creation, when he is describing where he's going to put you, why does he tell you that there's gold there? And not only does he tell you there's gold, he tells you that the gold is good. denoting the quality of the gold. He's fucking God. He can make all the gold good. Why does he even mention gold anyway? So there's definitely something to this we've been programmed to mine gold thing. Once again, every culture, everywhere, from northern Africa to southern Africa to fucking Russia to China, Japan, Europe, South America, Central America, North America, everybody likes gold. The Dogon, the Druids, fucking the Incas, everybody likes gold. Why? Why do we like gold so much? The Vikings, everybody. We've always liked gold. Where did this come from? You know, the Bible tells you in the beginning, he tell you that the gold is good. And then what does he create man for? Why did God create man? In the Bible it says he created man to tend to his garden and to look after it. And that's why he placed man in the Garden of Eden. He created man to tend to his garden. If you have a garden and you have someone else tending to your garden, you have a worker. You're paying a worker to keep your garden in order. That's all we were created for. We were created as workers to tend to the garden and mine the gold. It's the key to immortality. Motherfucking colloidal gold and colloidal silver, definitely. Because they not just figured it could help with their atmosphere, they ate the shit too. They ate it, a lot of gold, and it made them glow a little bit. They had this glow like luster to their skin because they ate gold and silver. Oh yeah. Yo, we all on it this morning, yo. Me, Miss Caesar, and motherfucking Big Rob. Some people know some shit. I ain't by myself. When I talk this shit out loud, most people like, this nigga is crazy. This motherfucker sound crazy. But hey, when I talk this shit out loud with other people who already know, it don't sound so crazy. It really don't. It don't sound that crazy at all. You know? It may be hard to imagine. Well, yeah, I really think that something like this actually happened. I really do think something like that happened in our ancient past. Huh? Since I like telling this story so much, I figured I'll put it in my art. You already know. You already know, Aiden. Every time. Blasphemy. Oh, he's an atheist. Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. Oh, that nigga just crazy. No, I read a lot. I do a lot of research. I watch a lot of documentaries. And I keep an open mind and try to think outside the box. If you do that, you probably will sound crazy to a lot of people. He always talking about weird shit. No, I'm always talking about shit that you don't know about because you don't have any interest in deep topics. All you want to do is a fucking TikTok dance. I can't do that. Perhaps the gods were overthrown. Well, I think that a major cataclysm actually got to them. They were here, they were doing fine. Something happened outside of their control. A comet, tectonic plate shifting, a pole shift. I don't fucking know. I really think that the flood scenario is definitely genuine. Once again, all over the world, we hear these flood myths. from the Americas to the Africas. Like there's this flood myth that something happened. So we have to really take that into consideration. And I think the last major deluge was the end of the giants. Did they all get destroyed or wiped out in this calamity? I don't think so. I think they had survivorships where some of them actually were able to escape the planet, maybe go back to their home planet, maybe go to the moon base. Um, I think some of them actually stayed here on the planet after the calamity to try to help rebuild civilization. And that's our gods. That's the gods that we know of today. That's Yahshua or um, Jehovah Jireh or whatever you want to call this dude. Um, I think that the last surviving members of this vastly advanced civilization, the ones who stayed behind, they became like um, Baal and um, what's the other Gilgamesh, God, Odin. These are those last remnants of those people that felt like, we've created these little soft, weak beings. I just can't leave them to their own devices. Let me just stick around and see if I can help build these people back up. And then we write stories about them and we call them our gods when they weren't like some supernatural, multi-dimensional being or something. Gilgamesh in the Noah story, but once again, it's that same flood. It's that same flood story that we hear. So there is definitely a correlation in there somewhere. And Yahshua goes back to the Anunnaki. So these stories intertwine, they overlap, they interconnect. It's just the names are changing. Like Zeus, Hercules, and Athena are the same ones as Saturn and Mercury. And all these gods, they just got different names for different pantheons, but they're the same beings. So if you say Gilgamesh, Enki, Enlil, and Anu, or you can say Horus, Set, and uh, Lilith, and all these motherfuckers, they're all the same characters. Their names just changed a little bit. Who is the one that the Matrix ship is named after? The Matrix ship in the movie, The Matrix, the name of their ship was. Did it start with a D? You know what? I can't remember the name of the ship in the Matrix. So once again, if you study enough different myths and legends and older cultures, they start to sound the same. They start running into the same situations. Some of the characters act out the same type of drama in the same way. It started with an N. The Nebuchadnezzar. Was that the ship? The Nebuchadnezzar? I think so. You might be right that it started with an N. Yeah, the Nebuchadnezzar. And once again, even in our entertainment, they be throwing all that little shit in there. And then the Matrix is basically like the Jesus story because Neo rises from the dead and he becomes like this savior type character. And he has to make a deal with the machine overlords to save everyone else's soul, kind of like Jesus. It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere. That's who Saddam Hussein worshiped. bro. Once again, in the Bible, when God says, "There shall not be any other gods before me," you shall not have any other gods before me. This motherfucker didn't say there are no other gods. He never said there are no other gods. He just said, I'm number one, and I don't want you cheating on me with these other gods out here, because they ain't gonna treat you the way I treat you. So don't put these other gods before me. I was listening to one dude, and he said that the term Elohim does not necessarily mean God. Elohim is more of a title. So some people would say God is the supreme one and all, El or Elohim, when in actuality in the Bible there's 27 different characters that hold that title as Elohim. They are all gods in their own right, and they have their own worshipers and followers, and they go to war with each other. God's not the only God in the Bible. God is just one of the remaining Anunnaki. Basically what he's saying. Sorry, believed he was reincarnation of, I can't see the rest of the comment on there. He was the reincarnation of what? Oh, there is no rest of it. You cut it off right there. My bad. You know what? Damn. Did I not? I didn't bring my grinder or nothing up there. I mean, I got grinders, but these are empty, I think. That's empty. That's empty. I got 2 grinders with nothing in it. This not gonna work right, people. That was another Anunnaki. Bro, the Anunnaki is so tantalizing. Alright guys, I don't know how I didn't bring my snacks up here, all my Scooby snacks. Bring all my Scooby snacks. Yo. Good morning, who's this? Trina? Oh, she left out. Yeah, the Anunnaki story is very, very interesting. The first time I came across it was probably 2006, maybe. The girl I was dating at the time, she had a good friend, and this is when I was just really, in 2006, I forgot what I was, you know what? I was actually, 2006, I was still on my 9/11 shit, trying to figure out the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Like, I was trying to figure all that shit out around like 2005, 2006. And so the girl I was dating, she had a friend over, and you know, just some conspiracy conversation came up, and she was like, the girl was like, my boyfriend is all into this shit. You'll love to talk to him. And then she was like, have you ever heard of the Anunnaki? And I was like, nah. What the fuck is that? And so the next time she came over, she had these 2 books. No, she actually had 3 books with her. And she was like, I was telling my boyfriend about you, and he said that you should read these books. So she brought me 3 books. It was the Book of Enoch, which is, I was like, I ain't never heard this shit. And then she had these 2 books from this author named Zachariah Stinson. And one of his books was Genesis Revisited. And then the other book was The 12th Planet. So this dude let me borrow all 3 of these books. Genesis Revisited, The 12th Planet, both written by Zachariah. And then he had a copy of the Book of Enoch. So now I started reading these Jones, and I started with Genesis Revisited. When I started reading that shit, I'm like, what the fuck is this dude really trying to say? Like, whoa, 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 whoa. You trying to tell me that you believe that aliens from a distant star system came here and made man? I'm like, this shit can't be real, man. And then he started bringing out all these different Bible verses and references and shit. Yo, that shit made me read the Bible. After I read Genesis Revisited, I couldn't even go to the other books. I started to read the 12th Planet, a little bit of it, but Genesis Revisited had my head so fucked up because I grew up in the church and I just assumed that I knew what the Bible said, and I understood the Bible because it's been preached to me my whole life, even by my grandmother who was a preacher. So it's like, I know the Bible. And then once I read Genesis Revisited, it's like, I guess I don't know the Bible because I didn't realize it said that, and I didn't realize it said this, and I was definitely unaware that it said that. And so once again, I tried to read the 12th Planet, but I was so taken aback by all the stuff that he was talking about in Genesis Revisited. I picked up the Bible and I read the Bible like it's a book, just like a normal book, page to page. But after that, I was fucking hooked on this theory that maybe somebody did create us. Maybe it was genetic panspermia. Maybe it was something else. Yeah, the Wachowski brothers, who are now the Wachowski sisters, because they both went transgender, which is weird. Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar could have been one of the last Anunnaki. Once again, man, these people know what they be putting into their entertainment and media. That shit don't be by accident. It don't be by accident at all. And then only smart motherfuckers like this will catch it and peep that shit like, oh, wait a minute. I see what you're trying to tell me. I see how you're trying to spin this little narrative. That's why they wanted to kill his ass. I think that's what the whole 9/11 shit was. You know, these motherfuckers went over there, tried to find um the Baghdad Stargate, and then they found the giants of Kandahar. They took out Saddam. Yo, they know what the fuck they was doing over there. They went over there to get all the ancient knowledge and ancient secrets and shit. That wasn't no fucking. And they took the oil and the poppy fields and all that shit too. But there was some extra shit they was over there doing. Extra, extra. And I said these motherfuckers said they found the Stargate. In Baghdad. You know what Baghdad is? Babylon. You was looking at the conspiracies on that? Yo, Baghdad ain't nothing but ancient Babylon. Same thing. Same thing. So, ain't no telling what they really went over there for. I mean, they used 9/11 as like the catalyst to get everything started. But once they started running around the Middle East for 20 years, man, they took a lot of shit, a lot of artifacts. And a lot of people say they took a giant out of that shit, yo. They had an encounter with a giant, a whole squadron of Marines. Say the giant killed like 3, 4 Marines, and they finally took the giant down and killed his ass, and they took the body back somewhere, yo. If you ain't never heard that story, look up the Giant of Kandahar. And they say that's what Alexander the Great was looking for too, when he was trying to make his conquest of the known world, because he believed that he was a demigod, and he was trying to find some of the last remnants of the true gods on Earth. And that's why his whole campaign to expand his power was so big, because he really wanted to try to find these ancient gods that people talked about. But them desert people got all the secrets, man. Them motherfuckers over there got all the secrets. You know? And you know who really got a lot of secrets, who don't be telling nobody shit? Motherfucking China. China got ancient pyramids and ancient megalithic structures, but they don't let nobody come examine them shits or study them shits or do any kind of um, archaeological research or no digs or nothing. China don't want nobody fucking with their ancient history. But that shit, oh, the whole, man, this whole thing way older than anybody can fucking imagine. Anybody. And I'm getting to the point where I think that here on the North American continent is where a lot of this shit actually started. People are like, oh, Africa, the cradle of civilization, this and that. Mesopotamia and the Sumerians, they may not be the oldest, bro. Sneaky motherfuckers. But after reading like what's my man's name? Damn, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. My man, he wrote this one book called um When Rocks Cry Out. When Rocks Cry Out. He was like, the Americas are older than Africa. The shit that happened over here in Americas was like some of the first shit. And actually, African culture like the knowledge of the Ethiopians and the Sudanese and the Egyptians, like you said, that knowledge started here on this continent in North America and was taken over to Africa. But the origin was so old that it fucking faded and died out and died away, while the African continent was slowly on the rise. And so now we think that Africa is like the home for everything when it really wasn't even a home for everything. Well, this is something that Joe Rogan talks about all the time, is like we're biological bootloaders for the next evolution of intelligence. Like this is maybe how it is supposed to be, to try to leave the biological form and transcend into something else that's more connected, more of a hive mind that does not have to be contained within a body. I don't know. It's weird as shit. It's weird, but it's not. It didn't all begin in Samaria, bro. It didn't. Beetle. I really don't think it all began in Samaria. Um, Once again, if you read Horace Butler, When Rocks Cry Out, I don't think it all started in Samaria at all. There's something way older than that. Um, but uh, all right, check this out right here, guys. All right, let me go back to some more shit that I've been posting on my Facebook. This is my private Facebook, so if you don't know me, you won't see this shit. But is this a coincidence, bro? You said everything started in Samaria? I don't think so. Ecuador and Mesopotamia, where Samaria is at. Ecuador. This is Ecuador, bro. How do you get the same fucking thing? Tell me. Tell me how you do that. How you do that from continents away? Ecuador, Mesopotamia. How do you do that? This is the same people. These are the same people. That shit didn't start in Samaria, bro. Samaria is not that old. It's old, but not as old as people think it is. That ain't the oldest shit. Look at this right here in America now. You can't tell me that these. You can't see that that was once a sculpture of a fucking sphinx. You can see this whole temple complex right there. You can see the whole temple complex. That shit just old as fuck. It's so old and eroded away. People don't recognize it. Just like this is how we see shit right here. We see shit at the last part. It just looks like a fucking crumbled up goddamn piece of rock. But thousands of years ago, that shit was something beautiful like that. But now we just see it as rubble. Shit just looks like rubble now. When you look at Puma Punku, once again, more giants. Why would somebody draw a man lifting two fucking elephants? Why would somebody do that if that really didn't exist? Okay, 1911. That shit don't look like nothing. It don't look like nothing is even there. But once you start clearing shit away, the Nephilim. Okay. So this is what you need to see real quick. I'll show you this real quick. Okay, you look up the Sage Wall. I want to find a short one. It don't really matter. We'll just look at a little bit of it. A lot of people seen it now, but this is in Montana, I think. This is in America, in Montana. So, for people who think that the Sumerians started everything,
since I got out here, I'm still just so blown away at this. Look, bro, can y'all see this? So, walking up right on the trail, another what looks like
a nub.
But there is clear as day another wall, just as defined. It's the main Sage Wall right here.
So I never seen this guy look at it, but
In person.
who built that?
Yeah.
Look how old and eroded it is. Look how massive these fucking stones are.
So we're walking up right now what looks like another channel. If you follow this wall down, it just continues down.
And it has those same markings that look like they melted the stone.
Another one of the reasons why I really
And it has the same nubs on it that you see on the pyramid complex. Like it's the same type of polygonal stonework that you see everywhere at all these megalithic sites. But that shit right there is the oldest. That shit older than everything. Right here in fucking America, in Montana. Who the fuck built that shit? Nobody even knew that shit was there for years. It's on some private land. Some land that some family owns. Nobody fucking really hikes it or nothing. The family just has owned the land for a few generations. The land has switched over. I guess the last generation is fading out and they're going. So all the paperwork is being done to like keep the land in the family. Whoever got bequeathed the land recently, they was like, you know what? Let's go actually check this shit out. Let's go walk on the property that our family has. No one ever really goes out here. Let's just go check it out. And they found this fucking huge ass wall. It's geopolymer. Are polygonal, same thing. But it's in America. And it's super, they can't even really date this shit yet. They're still trying to date it to see how old this motherfucker is. So now we got and the thing which you say everything started in Samaria. Well, we got Göbekli Tepe. That's older than Samaria. So we're already pushing the timeline further back. That's northern Turkey. And so now what most historians say is, oh, civilization really started about 6,000 years ago with the Sumerians. Their cuneiform writing and actually record keeping and notations of history is with the Sumerians. But then the Sumerians are the ones who give us the Anunnaki creation story. But then we find Göbekli Tepe, which is about 12,000 years old. So we know that Sumer isn't where civilization and culture started. We know that now. And so when Dr. Robert Schoch redated. He gave his hypothesis on an actual dating of the Sphinx in 1996, and he dated the Sphinx at roughly 11 to 12,000 years old. So once again, we're pushing these timelines further and further back. And the one thing about the Americas is that a lot of people don't want to actually put money up towards excavating a lot of these mounds here in America, because there's huge mounds that may be pyramids. Once again, when you look at uh, Pumapuku before it was cleared off and excavated, it just looked like the top of a hill with a forest on it. Didn't even look like anything was there. Once you excavated the site, it's an ancient megalithic temple. And it's like, goddamn. And all these places are like that. But for some reason, they don't want to really excavate a lot of these mounds in Southern America, um, for whatever reasons, even though they seem like they could be pyramid uh, temple sites. So Scotch is a geologist. Uh, Robert Schoch, well, yes, he is a geologist. Exactly. Exactly. And so he looked at the rocks because he spent his life studying rocks and how rocks are formed, how the earth shaped rocks, the different types and components of different rocks, and how rocks erode over time. And he looked at the Sphinx and is like, "That's water erosion." And everybody's like, "Nah." And he said, "Yes, this is water erosion." And they said, "Nah." And so he took a picture of the Sphinx and he blocked it off so you can't see the Sphinx. All you see is a section of rock. That's all you can see. And he sent that to another one of his geologist buddies. And he said, "What type of erosion is this?" And his other geologist buddy looked at it and simply said, "Oh, it's water erosion." And then he said, "You know that's the Sphinx, right?" And he was like, "Nah." And he was like, "Yeah. Yeah, that's the Sphinx." Well, when was the last time there was heavy enough rainfall in that region of the Giza Plateau to actually create this distinctive water erosion? About 12,000 years ago. They are antediluvian, yes. But I don't know. So once again, we keep pushing our timeline further and further and further back. And there's just so many different things that point to a ancient global civilization, just like now. Just like now. We know people are in China and people in China know there's people in Canada. We just know that. It's a fact. We know. And before, there was a complete global civilization that knew everything and they shared similar ideas and building methods and construction and mathematics and languages and everything. And but something happened to that. Something happened to that civilization that wiped it out, and very, very, very few of those people actually remained. And the ones who that decided to help out afterwards were called gods. And I can almost imagine that if we go to an uncontacted tribe, say, just say if the people from North Sentinel Island would actually let somebody onto their island. Just say that, okay, they gave just one person a pass to come onto their island. And if you bought with you just like the simplest things, like a gun or a lighter or uh a chargeable the little battery pack that you can charge by winding it up and then make a light bulb or something light up, or have a flashlight at nighttime. Like if you just had any of that, how would them people look at you? They would look like, what the fuck is that? Oh my god, this dude is, he fucking held fire in his hand, and you would be like a god to those people with a flashlight so you can see at night. How would they describe that? He had a light in his hand that brightened the darkness. Or what if you had a gun and you showed them motherfuckers and you shot somebody right in front of them and killed them? Pow! And then what? How would they describe that? Would it be magic? Would they say you have powers? Yeah. But and so I think that these people just had a form of understanding and technology that the lower people didn't have, and when they came back and it was like, huh, we built all these temples and shit in our ancient past. I'm gonna show y'all how to fix these shits up. And that's why all the ancient shit is the biggest, bulkiest, most precise shit. When okay, now we're at the verge of AI, so it seems like, oh well, we came from the Stone Age and the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, and we made the steam engine, and then we made the internal combustion engine, and then we made space flight, and now we have satellites and AI. So it seems like we're progressing and getting better and smarter, but we still can't figure out how they did that shit. How did they stack stones on top of each other? These big stones, huge stones. How did they stack that? And that type of construction has decreased throughout the ages, where we don't do that anymore because we don't know how. Somehow it seems like we're getting smarter, but at the same time we've lost an understanding of what seems to be something so simple like stacking a stone. Let me take a bathroom break. YouTube still. YouTube be live on Instagram. Instagram. Say hello to YouTube. YouTube, I'd like you to meet Instagram. We got my man Beetle and Big Rob in here holding down the discussion. We've been in here talking all morning about Big Rob. They had records of Egyptian kings ruling and living for 30,000 years at a time. Hmm. Healing with sound. I don't think the I don't think the Egyptian records show 30,000 years per king. I think that is the Anunnaki accounts of their ruling kings. Because King Anu, they say he ruled for 30,000 years or some shit like that. I don't think that was the Egyptians. Because they said motherfucking um Akhenaten and all these motherfuckers dying at like 40, 50 years old, bro. Tutankhamun, this motherfucker was young as shit when he died. He was like in his 30s or something. Not 30,000 years. Oi, 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 oi. I feel like I should be painting right now. You know what I'm saying? We've been talking for like an hour and a half. I keep looking at this painting that I took off the easel yesterday because I feel like it's enough, but then sometimes I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm just anxious to get it done and get away from it, but I really feel like I see like a few more things that I could probably do to it. Damn. Okay, I might actually do something else to it real quick. I might do something else to it real quick. Let's see. Just for a little minute. Because I'm really anxious to start this new piece. I don't know why the comments just recycled back around like that. Because I did forget I want to put a little bolt right here or something. Let's see. Uh-oh. Damn. Motherfucker. Son of a bitch. fuck that up. Damn. That's crazy. Just damn near poke a hole in that bitch, bro. Moving too fast. Damn. I stay fucking some shit up now. Say one thing I can do, I can mess something up. Easy and quick too. I do it real fast. I mess something up in a heartbeat. I'll let you know now. I might fuck this up. I'll be a son of a gun. I can see that shit plain as day too. No! Why did I do that? Fuck me. Lord have mercy. Why did that go out like that?
This site is really deserving of some further exploration. It's archaeological work out here.
Oh.
Ordered versus what I got. I ordered Huel Hot and Savory as a healthy, quick alternative for my lunch. This way, I'm eating healthier, no longer reaching for unhealthy snacks, and no longer skipping meals, because I now have a delicious meal in just 5 minutes. Huel fits even in the most busy of days. Plus, it's got everything your body needs from a meal, all without meal planning, cooking, and prepping. Thanks to Huel, I have full control of my diet and calories. It's honestly ideal to perfectly master even the most stressful everyday life. Alright, get Huel Hot and Savory right now and click the link below.
Shop Chewy for an incredible selection of your pet's favorite brands. We have everything they need for a happy and healthy life. Pet pets aren't just pets, they're more.
Okay, this is what I found the other day, and it looks just like certain things in Egypt, right? So, let me show you. This, it's kind of hard to tell, but this square cutout with the channel and a circle, but then it breaks off here. When I put the main video out, and I can do a side-by-side comparison to show you what I'm talking about with stuff from Egypt. But you can see the channel right here comes from the square cutout area into a circle area where it's broken off.
I don't even know what this is. I see them all over the thing. I don't know if those are the same as you were pointing out earlier. This one was. Here it is.
Giant nub right there. Right here, that's really odd. I've got kind of small hands, 7.5 for those wondering. That was my glove size. So that looks like a 9 or 10 size hand, if that is a handprint like I think it is. All those little things all over. Can't really get to that one. But you can kind of see it there. Not round like the other nubs I've seen, so who knows if that's what he's looking for. Another one sticking up right here.
Wow, really? What is going on today? Alright, so I actually want to post a picture of this today, so let's try to knock out some last little things here.
So I'm almost there. Now, I will stop real quick and mention that the other side was clearly a wall too, and now I'm going to show you. There's the wall. And you can see how it's another channel. And all of this was a wall too. You can just line it all up and everything just fits together. Here's some other depressions that we found. Right? Now, here's the wall. So I'm gonna come up here and get close so you guys can get a really good look at this. Look at this guy.
What the fuck?
And this is on this massive boulder. I'll back up so you guys can get a better angle of it. Amazing, right?
Yo, what is? Now look at dude. Wait a minute. So this looks like.
You guys can get a better angle of it. It's the wall. So
What is
here and
this?
get close so you guys can get a really good look at this. Look at this guy. And this is on this massive boulder. I'll back up so you guys can get a better angle of it. Amazing, right? Some of these areas just looking like concrete. And you get over here to other spots, and it's not the same composition. The stone is not the same. Look, this part is broken off. It's like, oh.
Hey, check this out. Is this what you were talking about? Where it still hasn't been weathered away? Or is that just like dirt?
Doesn't it look like concrete does?
Yeah, it really does.
Alright guys, so as we've been exploring more, I think what we've got here is our working theory right now is that, you know, we're not exactly sure what the structure was built for, but it clearly looks like some kind of ravine for channeling maybe water or some kind of pathway or stairway that we can't see and make out, but one of those, right? And then when you come up here, we come up to the very top of the highest point that's right above the actual wall. What we started noticing more and more is this, the type of rock that it is, right? And it looks very much like geopolymer, which would basically be like concrete, layered over and layered over. Because what we keep encountering are these breakaway pieces like this that are breaking away and breaking off. And then when you come in here and you get into the seams of it, what you've got is you can tell that this piece, you know, maybe it was made individually, but then you get down here and it's connected in these grooves and bases. And so there's these grooves everywhere, these joints, where you can tell that this is how they were at one time connected. And then down here, you've just got this flaking away of what looks like concrete and dust. And that's all in between all the joints, except the higher up points where they're breaking completely off and breaking away. But even then, what you have is fine dust. And I think what we're standing on, I'm, you know, up to this point I've been saying possible ancient site, because I don't want to jump to any conclusions, anything. But after walking around here, I think there's plenty of evidence to say that I think we're standing on an ancient site. I think we're standing on some kind of ancient site, and it is just extremely weathered down. Now, if it was geopolymer, some advanced form of concrete and layering and stuff, that would make sense. That this site would be much more weathered down than places that were made out of one solid piece of stone, like granite or things like that, where you find at different places in the world. So that is kind of the short working theory right now.
HelloFresh. Guys, shrimp spaghetti with a cake is what we're gonna make. You guys know that HelloFresh makes cooking dinner easy, fun, and affordable? Let's do this. Everything is already pre-packaged, pre-portioned, so you guys have no food to waste. HelloFresh.
No, screw that.
So what we're looking at right here, we're standing on another wall. You see down here, all these stones are all collapsed. You can tell by the way that they've fallen, some of them are split in half, that they used to be a part of this that we're standing on. Now, what we're standing on right here is an exact alignment with the continued wall that we just walked through all the way down. There are multiple walls out here, and we have one that's still intact for us to reference and go off of. And there's, I mean, that is like the Rosetta Stone out here, that one wall, because it has collapsed portions where you can see things have pushed the wall out. You can clearly see it. And then you have breaks and points where rocks have fallen out, and you can just see the structure of it. And then not only that, it continues on a straight line, and you're able to follow these lines all the way up further into the mountain, where the walls continue to go along those lines. And there, from there, you're able to track, like right here, where all these boulders have just fallen from where I'm standing in alignment all the way up the mountain. Just continues.
So now this
so
is
incredible.
Listen to how he just described that. Listen to this again. So this is one of my theories right here. He just gave me.
The structure of it, and then not only that, it continues on a straight line. You're able to follow these lines all the way up further into the mountain, where the walls continue to go along those lines. And there, from there, you're able to track, like right here, where all these boulders have just fallen from where I'm standing in alignment all the way up the mountain. It just continues. This is so.
So he says this wall goes in a straight line up the mountain, and then down here you can see how it's fallen and starting to collapse and fall away down the ravine. So what if that area was literally a flat plane at one time, and that wall or set of walls were just flat in a straight line on a flat surface, and then some kind of geological event pushed the fucking earth up, collapsing this part of the wall to fall down and the other side to go up higher. But then you just got lucky and had that one little section of wall that was moved but didn't completely collapse. And that's why I say, like, it's so hard to find these things, because from the Younger Dryas, the end of the Ice Age, which moved a lot of glaciers across Canada and the northern part of North America, the mud floods, earthquakes and volcanic activity and upheavals, sinking and rising of the coastlines. Like, a lot of these super ancient places, they're all but gone completely. And so they even say that there's like pyramids off the coast of Cuba, but they're underwater. They're like 200 meters underwater. So how long ago was the sea level low enough for that to be like a beachfront area? Or was it inland, and then once again some kind of geological event caused the shelf line to collapse, and a portion of the land slid into the water? So once again, I do think that there is clear evidence for a super ancient global civilization. It's just that the remnants of it are so hard to find. There's nothing hardly left of that shit. And so people hypothesize that it would only take like 5,000 or 6,000 years for human existence to completely disappear. Completely. Like, if we had some extinction level event like happened today and mankind was just wiped out, in 10,000 years, nothing that we've made will be around. Everything will be rotted, eroded, and decayed back into fucking nature, into rubble and shit. And our biggest cities nobody wouldn't even know that shit was ever there. Maybe like small little fragments, you may find a chunk of motherfucking concrete with a little piece of rebar sticking through it, and somebody will find it like, wow, there's a piece of metal going through this rock. Like, wow, that's amazing. I wonder what that was. And that's it. That's all you'll find. You won't find those silicone chips and motherfucking computers, satellites, or wooden structures. Our roads and highway systems cover like a very small, minute portion of the surface of the planet. So those shit to be overgrown in like the first 500 years. And then once again, just normal weather, nature growing back, and with no one taking care of the infrastructure, shit'll just fall apart. Bridges will decay and fall back into the ocean. Then coral reefs will build on top of that shit. You'll never see that shit ever again. Goddamn, I don't know. It's just, it's amazing like how easy it is to be able to lose the information that something ever existed. And so, once again, when they say Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old, that's pretty impressive that it lasted that long and that we can still see and touch this motherfucker right now. 12,000 years later, where once again, the shit that we've made and the shit that we've constructed, if that shit just sits by itself for 12,000 years, that's not going to be here. It won't be here. And then any other alien civilization to come to this planet and be like, there was nobody ever here. We're the first people here. I think that's why the ancient builders did build in stone, in such large stone, and built in a way like the polygonal walls and pyramids. Like the triangle is just one of the strongest structures in itself. How it can bear weight, and that's why the roofs on the top of most houses are a triangle. It's an A-frame. Most motherfuckers have an A-frame roof. Why? Because the triangle is super strong. It's a very rugged and sturdy shape. And I think that's why the ziggurats and pyramids are still here, because it's just 4 triangles. And they're able to withstand earthquakes. And especially if you make them really big and heavy. So I think they understood that. And a lot of this stuff, people say they're primitive because they carve stuff in stone. The Stone Age. But I think also too, they know that stone is a lot more durable than a lot of other materials. If you want something to last, make that shit big and heavy and make it out of fucking stone.
And we're continuing to find more and more evidence. This is what we keep seeing everywhere, is these whole other sections of walls, right? And then if you just sit here and you look and you pay attention enough, you can see how all the boulders that are just laying haphazardly, how they've collapsed and fallen from those walls. Whole other section right there. And you can see the rocks and how they've fallen down, the angles at which they've fallen, and how they used to be on top of everything. Whoa. It's going to be really hard for you guys to tell because there is just so much debris stacked on it. But there is clear as day another wall just as defined as the main sage wall right here. It goes straight down. And from here, I can see the wall, the other section of the wall right here. It is a straight wall. Oh man, dude, this video is going to be so good when I edit together all of this footage. We are literally walking around an ancient site. So I was just back up there, and here's a perfect example of the wall. Now you can see this we're at the wall right now, but you can see like this massive stone right here. You can tell how everything has fallen and collapsed in, right? And that this massive boulder used to be up on top. One of the things that I've been looking for while I've been out here that it would just be kind of like a nail in the coffin is fitted seams, right? Everything's so weathered down out here. There are just spaces and things have been kind of, trees have grown up through stuff and displaced things or rolled boulders and pushed them. I really wanted to get something where it shows multiple lines fitted together. Look at this, right? Now, this line goes down and there's another seam right over here. It's just incredible. I mean, look at this. But this is one of the main things that I've been looking for. And this is all right on this wall right here. Now that we've had more time to analyze the site and go over details, what we've got here are multiple channels with multiple rock walls. You know, the evidence is clear. It is a rock wall. It was man-made with channels, and there's not one, but there are at least 4. I am standing on the top of where one is down here. There's another one down here. I can look off across this way. There's one over there. And then there's one right back here. I'll have fun with anybody who wants to argue with me about this. It'll be a fun conversation.
An ancient site right here in America. You know why? Because I do believe that the Americas are older than Mesopotamia.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video because I sure enjoyed filming it. This is at Sage Mountain Center where the Sage Wall is. You have to book an appointment and you can do that at sagemountain.org. So you gotta book your time slot before you come out here, right? And in the details, I'm gonna have all kinds of different descriptions and different information for you to go over before you decide to come out here. And if you decide to do that, you're not gonna regret it. This place is absolutely amazing. I also want to take a quick second to give a huge shout out and thank you to Chris for his hospitality and letting us explore the site. We've had an amazing time and I'm so happy to be able to share this with other people. Thank you, Chris, and I couldn't recommend coming out here enough. If you guys get the chance, make sure to reach out to sagemountain.org to book your time and get on out here and enjoy this amazing, amazing place. All right, guys, stay tuned for the next video. We're going to be continuing to drop stuff from all over the world, and I really appreciate your support. Stay safe, and have a great week.
Nah, I really appreciate that one because he's the first person I've heard say there are multiple walls out here. And they don't look like just standalone things. They look like they're in pairs making channels for some type of water or irrigation but they're fucking massive ass stones, like. And you know what? Do you think they just built the wall like in the forest? I don't think so. I think they probably cleared all that out before they built the wall. How long that forest has been there? You know, once again, the family who owned the land for generations never knew. They had no idea that shit was on their property. Or somebody probably knew, like, yeah, there's some weird rocks in one area, but never, like, decided to, like, look into it. And now, it's so popular, these motherfuckers, like, we gotta make some money off of this. And you wanna come see our wall, you gotta book an appointment, plan in advance, and pay us X amount of dollars for X amount of time to walk around our private property. Damn, that's a good little hustle. Because I would definitely do that shit. My dad said, if I had some shit on my land, I'm not selling this shit. Nothing. I'll let y'all come check it out, though. Nah, for real though, I'd be so hyped. Like if if a research team did want to do some excavation and try to really uncover like where where does it begin and where does it end, and like really try to dig it up and try to recreate like what the fuck this may have been, because that's all we can do. Once again, even with Göbekli Tepe, we just like, we don't know. This could have been like some religious temple site, or and then why did they bury it? Was it buried on accident? Was it buried on purpose? Like, we don't know. We can just kind of hypothesize a little bit. It is like, if it was buried on purpose, you know how long it'd take to bury this whole motherfucking thing, man. This shit'd be just as much work as goddamn erecting this goddamn site. Ain't talking about bury the whole thing. So was that intentional or no? You can just guess. Now with this sage wall, now what the fuck is this thing? Is it irrigation channels? Was it some type of roadway system that was on the flat plain before but got uneven due to upheavals from earthquakes or something? We don't know. And like, my main question is, what kind of family? I mean, what do the family really think? Like, would they be open to having a research team come out here and try to figure out some problems? There'll be some stipulations, cause look, cause I want to know what this shit is too, honestly. So, like, if I was the property owner, I'd be like, I want somebody to do some research on it, but I want to keep making money off this shit too. So how can we get both of these things accomplished now? Because I know while y'all out here digging around and excavating and all that shit, you can't have people all about muddling around in your science. But at the same time, if I don't let people in, I ain't making no money off of my newfound discovery. So we're gonna have to have certain days of the week, or we can only schedule a certain area at a time. We'll let you dig on the northeast side for the next 6 to 12 months. We'll give you a year on the northeast side, and we'll keep all the tourists from off that side. Yellow tape and boundaries and all that shit. But over here, gonna be the money side. Cause I think you can still take tourists to Göbekli Tepe, even though it is currently being excavated. I don't really know how they work that without fucking up the science. Cause I don't need nobody footprints all in my shit. Yo, Boozy, what a doozy. Man, in here trying to finish this pyramid painting, talking about the sage wall. I got Martin Luther King Day off today, bro. First time ever. Our company told us last week. He said we get Dr. King Day, and we get Juneteenth off. And something else too. They one more. I think we get like some weird shit like Veterans Day. We get 3 extra holidays this year. And one of them, like, so 2 of them, well, I don't know. All of them really are just like some kind of niche type stuff. So Dr. King Day, like, everybody get that off? Really? And then Juneteenth. Really? Everybody get Juneteenth off? Everybody? Hmm. And then Veterans Day. Like me, I get Veterans Day off. Like why? Why would I? I ain't never fight for this country. Oh, it's a holiday for everybody. Oh, okay. I can see like some of the other holidays, like okay, Christmas. That's something kind of for everybody. Um, the big ones, Christmas and Thanksgiving. I'm like the two big ones, really. And I can kind of see that's for everybody. You get those days off. I can see how like 4th of July should be for everybody, who live in this country. It's a celebration of the country. I can see that. Um, yeah, that's about it. I don't really understand New Year's. Why the fuck you need that day off? Bitch, it's Tuesday, bitch. Take your ass to work. You just had Christmas off. What the fuck? Hey, you need another holiday real quick. Hmm. Okay. All right. I mean, I take every holiday, and I ain't giving it back, but I don't see the point. You know what I'm saying? I don't really see Valentine's Day. What if you single? Does this really apply to you? Does this day apply to you? You won't you single? You don't you ain't got no Valentine. President's Day. Man, they only what it is 44 people been president. Why everybody got to celebrate that day? I ain't never been no damn president. Well, now, like I say, well, I'll take it. I'll take the day off. Shit, y'all want me to take the day off so bad? I damn near forgot. I ain't gonna lie, yo. I almost went to work this morning. Whoa, wait a minute. It's MLK Day. All right. I think we should get a Malcolm X Day and a Black Panthers Day. Just a little bit. I don't know, man. I ain't trying to do too much more to this damn painting because I'm trying to just do enough because I want to post it today. I really want to post a picture of this today. Next gen survival co-op game. What is this? I don't know.
As fossil fuels. Oil, natural gas, coal, they're fossil fuels because they come from fossils, ancient organic material, forests, jungles, plankton, dinosaurs. Held under the ground for millennia, they transform into oil, gas, and coal. Everybody thinks that's true. On the other hand, there's evidence that maybe it's not the whole story. If that's where fossil fuels come from, if that's how hydrocarbons are made, then how come they're found so deep under the oceans and at the top of the Earth? How come one of Saturn's moons, according to scientists, has more oil and natural gas than Earth? Were there dinosaurs and planktons and forests at one point on one of Saturn's moons? Probably not. So if all hydrocarbons aren't from fossils, where are they from? And why isn't this commonly known? And what are the implications of it? And what does it tell us about our modern climate change policy? These are not just esoteric questions, they're central questions, actually, as we chart the future of energy use.
That's what somebody else said. Like, yo, why didn't everything turn to fossils then? And sometimes a fossil would turn into a bone, or I mean a rock, and then sometimes it'd turn into gas.
Here, Dr. Sun, thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. It's a blessing to be able to come on your show.
Well, it's a blessing to have you. And this is such an interesting question with so many implications.
Yes.
And I want to spend most of our time talking about the implications. But just to the strict question of where hydrocarbons come from, it sounds like they're not necessarily all from ancient forests or plankton or dinosaurs, are they?
Yes. The story can be a bit long, so give me a few minutes to
Yes.
explain. You are certainly right, but most important to clarify is that the information that is found on the largest moon on Saturn, which is called Titan,
Yes.
is actually results from NASA, European Space Agency,
Yes.
and then the Italian Space Agency, who built this spacecraft called Cassini. And Huygens, actually one of my thesis advisor committee is actually built the UV spectrometer. But the one that they used to discover this, basically the ocean liquid form of methane, which is in ethane form, which is much more complicated hydrocarbon, this whole ocean of it. Because Titan is in such a way that it's very cold, by the way, so it's minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes.
Hint, hint, hint. Where's the global warming there, right? It is full of methane there, right? That's another problem because it's far away from the sun. That's what it is.
Yes.
And clearly that the question of abiogenic matter, which means no need of any biology, is true. Because we know, actually one experiment was done in 2009. It was done in Swedish Royal Academy, one of those group, but it's done by one Russian leader. He was able to show that if you squeeze methane, CH4 in chemical formula, so 4 hydrogen, 1 carbon, squeeze them in a form that in which they simulate the condition of the Earth mantle, which is 1,800 miles deep,
Yes.
kind of below the surface, because the Earth is deeper, right? And it's within this 18, but basically the condition that is only about 40 to 150 miles in, that you actually can form complex hydrocarbon. You got benzene, you got ethane, you got all this other stuff
Yes.
forming. So that proved beyond doubt that you have such a way to make this. Plus that Titan proved beyond doubt. You actually see methane also in all the atmosphere of Jupiter. You even find benzene in the rocks of Mars. And then for me, astrophysicist, I can tell you even more. You find this complex hydrocarbon called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon. It's another one of those complex hydrocarbon. That actually you found it in interstellar space, between stars, intergalactic space. These are everywhere. Because temperature there are cold and probably the right pressure condition. All this complex hydrocarbons.
Well, it's kind of incredible because all of us, including myself until very recently,
right,
assumed that all of our main energy sources are these so-called fossil fuels, and of course their existence is going to be limited by the amount of fossils, by the amount of decaying organic material.
Not so.
So if that's not so, then we need to rethink a lot of things.
A lot. I think this one fit into a paradigm. A famous economist that I like very much. His name is Simon. Do you know about this guy named Simon?
Julian Simon.
Julian Simon. Yeah, the key guy, UC of Illinois and then Maryland. He was the guy who said that the ultimate resource of humanity or Earth is actually not all this material thing like uranium, gold, because uranium. There's far more uranium in the oceans than on the land, right? You have 4.5 billion tons of uranium in the ocean. You have only 17 million tons of that. Gold, copper, what do you want on the ocean? It's all there, except they're in very dilute form.
Yes.
Really. So the ultimate resource actually is not that, it's the human mind. It's the innovation part of it. I think I like that principle a lot, and it fits very well in terms of saying that it's all matter of cost. Even oil. I don't know if any of you know, the audience know that 50 to 60% of all the oil that you already drilled.
Just want to get a picture of it today.
You can only pull out 40 to 50% of it. 60% of that remains in it, simply because there's not enough pressure to get it out. This is why the idea of abiogenic oil is interesting. It's true, clearly true. It's all matter of cost, really. Because this thing has to form way inside the earth, the mantle, which is 50 to 100 miles, right? Human, how deep have we ever drilled? Only the skin, which is only 5 miles maximum, 5 to 6 miles basically. That's at most that we can drill. And then all this stuff had to permeate into the reservoir. I got this information from the top people that physically have to look for oil every day. One of my friends, Joseph Limecooler, from Beacon Energy, offshore energy. Those are the guys who work day in and day out.
His name Limecooler. What?
The oil that we need.
So why don't most people know this? Why do most people think that the gasoline in their car was, by definition,
It has to be limited?
Yeah, that there's just a tiny amount and it's going away. We'll never find more.
The world is full of untruth and half-truths, right? That's the whole problem, right? That's why for so long, even the idea that we are not limited and bounded by availability of, let's say, gasoline, petroleum, or coal. Coal now they won't allow us to use, right? As you know, in COP meeting in Dubai that just ended a day ago, they just physically declared themselves that we should stop using fossil fuel. Basically, petroleum, natural gas, and even coal. I mean, these people are insane now, really insane. I think they're going to harm more people with their own delusion. Plus, they always remember, these are people who actually don't represent the majority. No. Since when are this put up to vote? It's always about this minority, the tyranny of the few, always robbing the whole census, the good census of the good people. This is part of the reason why, as a scientist, I also speak out. Not afraid of anything except for just telling the truth. And I'm glad to have this opportunity to say such thing in your show.
So, I mean, if haven't been told the truth about where things come from,
right?
And we haven't. I mean, I've never met a single person in my life who said, wait a second, they're not all fossil fuels. Then keep hearing there's a scientific consensus on climate change. Every scientist believes the same thing about it, believes Al Gore and John Kerry. Maybe that's not true either.
Oh, that I can tell you, please. Thank you for asking that question, Tucker. I've been working on this subject of CO2 causing climate change, or what other factors we can ask that cause climate to change, for close to, since my postdoctoral year 1991, right? So it's about 31 years, 32 years. And on this question, I think we have a very definitive answer.
31, 32.
He
said, I've been in sciences for a long time, man. I did my postdoctorate 30 years ago.
Much of the climatic system, which means it won't change the speed of the hurricane, it won't change how fast or how frequent tornado form, it won't even actually make any difference to the polar bear population. It's all conservation issue, right, on polar bear. It won't even cause how much fish you don't catch, you know. It won't even cause what they call ocean acidification. It won't even cause this problem that they claim. It's all artificial. Everything they do is all dreamed from their model and the tyranny of the few again. That those few people just dream up this scary story that it just ain't true. And then when you come down to the most responsible group for this kind of bad stuff, I was reminded by my colleague, Dr. Ronan Connolly and Michael Connolly, my two co-workers with me on my group, is to say that since I work so carefully and I have about more than 100 scientists the last 3 years alone working with me. So I don't speak on behalf of them, I speak on behalf of myself. My view is that the UNIPCC, United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is one of the primary problems, which means they have been misleading people. They've been using authority of science, which is not true, right? It's all governmental hackers, basically, right? People like John Kerry, who I guess can barely take a proper physics class, who keep claiming that greenhouse effect is so simple, right? And then he refused to explain how does it work, right? I mean, he did all of that is very terrible. That really embarrassing to America. He did that in Bali in Indonesia several years back. That is just so embarrassing.
Do you think he can explain how it works?
I think so. Even Al Gore, who claimed to know something about science, I challenge Al Gore. I did some of that in his face actually. I was lucky enough to be in one of those Wall Street Journal eco conference, and I was giving, setting up with all the UC Santa Barbara students. Please make sure when the question comes up, give me the mic. Well, I was making friends with them the night before. I explained now my details of my work. So I got the mic and I asked questions about Al Gore, because one of the primary sad things that they refuse to recognize, that I know you know that in even grade school sciences, CO2 is a gas of life. When you have more CO2, the plant kingdom, the whole ecology, even the oceans, gonna have more, basically, ability, more fishes, more everything. More life, essentially. That's why it's called gas of life. And these people want to demonize it as some gas that can cause global warming, can cause hurricane to run faster or weaker. I don't know what they want. To have more rain, more droughts, and all this other nonsense.
More rain, more droughts.
All of that. It just ain't so. That's the problem. By the way, this is how serious I am. I check everything they say. I check. As a scientist, you cannot just dismiss them. You cannot laugh at them. You cannot, chide them. You cannot just make joke of them. You check everything. So as a very serious scientist, and I published scientific paper refuting all of these arguments. Scientific papers maybe mean nothing to the average people, but it's really important. It's like a document that you have to document and then put out the proper scientific arguments about what is right, what is wrong. So that's what we have been doing at my particular center called series-science.com. So anybody who wants more information about this, please go to the website, right? And study what we do there, because we are the one that is truly independent from any funding agency, any money that you could possibly give me, like Bill Gates, please don't give me money, thank you. And Al Gore, please don't give me money. Or don't give me any money if you tell me what to do. Even some of your money, I might not want it. But the point is that I want to be independent, just like you. In the media, I want to be fearless. I just set my own agenda. You don't tell me what to research either. I research what I want to research. So we've been researching on many, many topics. So on the climate change issue, I'm fully convinced. After all these years, even though we may not know exactly what is causing climate change, we suspect it's the sun. We have a lot of evidence to show that it's probably the sun. Very high percentage, like I would say 90% for sure, but not 100%. But we know carbon dioxide is not the gas, it's not the what you call like your thermometer in your room can adjust up and down, that you can set the temperature to be whatever level you want it. First of all, they can never tell us what temperature do they want it at. What is the temperature you want to set the global temperature? Al Gore has not been able to answer that. John Kerry has not been able to answer that. Because we know the temperature from the coldest in Siberia to the desert in Sahara. I mean, these are huge, at least 100 degrees or more kind of differences.
Yes.
I mean, who are you to tell me which temperature is the correct temperature? Where you guys are talking like that. They are talking as if they are pseudo-God, they're God themselves. I mean, these people are so ambitious that in some sense, I think we have to keep their ambition down a little bit. I mean, these people are not contented, just like what you put out there. You cannot be ambitious when you're contented, but these people are so out of their mind in some sense that I think it's misleading. And somebody has to speak out against them. I think you are one of those who consistently point out their hypocrisy, right? And I really find that the whole problem of this global warming is a complete nothing, which means we should do nothing about it. Just go on and live life and adapt to it, right?
So of course I agree completely, but here's what I don't understand. Global temperatures have dramatically fluctuated within the period that humans left records. I mean,
Right.
not that long ago. I mean,
Yes.
there are cities underwater because sea levels have risen within
Yes.
recorded history.
Mm-hmm.
The signs of the glaciers are all around us.
Yes.
So that was all before the internal combustion engine. How do they explain that?
This is the problem. They admitted. A lot of them admitted. They willingly admitted. You can read all
But you
the
can't deny it. I mean,
No,
we had glaciers and then they
are
melted
forced,
because
they
of
are
global
forced to
warming.
confess. I mean, these are the confession time. It's the sun actually that does a lot of this. The glacial, like there's a period called Little Ice Age.
Yeah.
You know, from about 1300 to 1900, where very cold. And then there's a very warm period from 880 to about 1200. It was warm. I mean, you can grow wine in England, right? And now you cannot grow wine, right? Things like that. I mean, Greenland was green back then,
Yes.
but now it's full of glaciers. Ice is coming in. So what are you talking about exactly? And it was the sun, actually. The sun fit quite well. As far as we know, in terms of deducing the information of how does the sun, how bright was it, how dim was it, basically just like that, just the amount of light coming out from the sun. Very tiny percentage, by the way, very small. It's on the order of less than 1%, but it's more than enough because there's another effect that is very, very important. It's basically because the sun, the earth is forced to go around the sun, and then the orbit change ever so slightly because of perturbation from all the other planets.
Yes.
Jupiter, Saturn, and even Venus and Mars, they're actually controlling what we do. And the moon, of course, is very important. But that other factors, the orbits, plus the changes of the sun by itself, between how bright, how dim it is, these two factors can explain just about everything that we know. All the data that I have, actually. So I've been this is why I was so fascinated in studying this issue. I spent my whole life actually studying this. Nothing but doing just this. And the more I understand, the more I think that, wow, it's just a gap to be filled in. We have too much information that, and then these people come along say that CO2 is causing everything. I check. Oh, maybe they're right. I check. As a scientist, I have to check them. But then it's not even close. I mean, these people are talking about things that is, I mean, there's a famous phrase by a very famous Wisconsin meteorologist. His name is Professor Rick Bryson. He's one of the father of climatology, really. He just say that you go out and then you might as well, if you think CO2 is so, then you might as well spit into the air and see what happens to the airflow. He was just basically saying that CO2 is nothing, cannot cause the climate to change or anything. It doesn't change anything actually. It's the sun. Why you think the most important things that you should talk about, they never talk about that. They always want to average the data. The most important thing they should talk about, you know what? It's the season. No two winters are the same, no two summers are the same. And they never explain it. It's actually the orbits, with the sun changing it ever so slightly. And I'm not talking. I have published papers like that on all this to show and document why and how. That's what the fun part of doing science. Not only chatting, hand waving like crazy. Even though I may look like one now, but I am always very calm when you write down. Every time I have to write a paper, I always tell my wife, please, don't disturb me for a few days. I'll be back. Things like that. Of course, working at home, but I'll be back.
So is there any way to predict what climate change will be based on...
Actually, you can because of the orbit. The only thing we don't know is how to predict the sun changes by itself because the magnetism, just the magnetic field on the sun is too complicated. The sun is the magnetized ball, right? It's a gas, hot gas. It's about, the magnetic field is so strong, it's 10,000 times stronger than the Earth. The Earth is also a magnet, a bar magnet basically.
Yes.
It's 1 Gauss, we have 10,000 Gauss at least on the sun. So it's a very different property. And it works very differently because it heated by basically a thermonuclear reaction inside the sun. So it created all kinds of hot gas behavior that's very difficult to try to master or even to model using mathematical equation. Actually, it's much easier to study the Earth than to do the sun. So that's part of the problem in scientific tasks, the physics tasks. They're very difficult. But then we learn a lot. We learn a lot through just watching the sun. I mean, Galileo Galilei, right? He pointed his telescope. He was smart enough. First, he pointed to Jupiter, the moon, right? Jupiter, then he saw the moon, right? He saw 4 moons around it. And then he's smart that he go the next day to watch it again. He watched and then he started to move. By the way, the famous story of Galileo Galilei, we'll talk about it someday. When he wrote that down, initially it was in Italian. When he realized he discovered something so unique, he he changed the language to Latin the next day. Yeah, I got it, man, a good one. So he started writing in Latin, precise language, okay? But anyway, for the sun, it's really so complicated that actually I've been studying this actually as long as you know me. I mean, I studied this for so long. We know a lot. I even wrote a popular book actually to try to explain why that during a period of the sunspot, so Galileo Galilei started in 1609, 1610 or so. So we have about now 413 years of data. But there's a period that deep inside the Little Ice Age, 1645 to 1715, is called the Maunder Minimum. Because during that period, the sunspot almost all disappeared, especially in the northern hemisphere. It disappeared completely. Nobody knows why. And that's why the French astronomer, famous people like Cassini, the one that the Cassini spacecraft, he was observing at that time. He said, man, this Galileo guy must be either drinking too much or lying or things like that. He said there's a lot of sunspots, but we observe at this time, we didn't see nothing. What's wrong? But it is an actual phenomenon, right? My friend, my good friend, which is the #1 world sunspot historian, he just wrote email to me, Douglas Hoyt. He actually was the master of this, collecting all the sunspot data, going back to all the major libraries, from Galileo first point all the way to present point. Basically found that this phenomenon is true because during that period, the sunspot was not there, not because nobody was watching. It was at least observed 80% of the time during the 70 years. You see, it's so unique, that period. But now we're beginning to try to learn what happened there. So during that period, we really think that the sun was so much dimmer, was substantially dimmer. This is why you have this Little Ice Age phenomenon. All the Thames River were froze. We have the Thames River in England, well known, and then all the ice skating thing, in Holland, all the different culture. And then these are all real, actual phenomena. And then this day they try to say that maybe Little Ice Age is not Little Ice Age. They even try to change that in scientific field actually. So this was very, very puzzling for me.
Why would they try and change that?
Oh, I don't know, because they want to say the CO2 is controlling everything. They kind of want to have CO2 as the prime driver of everything. This is part of the problem that I find.
Well, that's not science, that's lying.
It's bad. It's bad in science. This is why in science now, I rather say this thing outright. I'd rather have questions that cannot be answered than answer that cannot be questioned. Because these people are just offering you the answer and then you should just shut up like you say. Don't ask any question. Don't criticize. Don't even bother to think. Just accept what we say. I mean, you may have known that this, actually, if you want to get there, I can talk about this because this is rather famous because the other person is still around. He's the one who's shouting up and down these last 2 days to say that, oh, we must stop fossil fuel. GOP is so evil. We must stop all of them because we are the GOP are the evil political bodies in America that causes all this fossil fuel to be, we are using fossil fuel and all that. His name is Professor Michael Mann. He's at University of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
He created a paper, we call it a hockey stick.
Yeah.
The stick paper.
Hockey stick.
He basically say that the temperature history, first of all, the true temperature history looked like this. That it was very warm from 800 AD, let's say warm, and then it cools down, about 1300 started to go down, cool. And then since about 1900th century, it started to warm back up. Way, way before CO2 is important, okay? That's another puzzle that they never want to explain. They look like this. That's the real story. Michael Mann came along, said that, well, he used mathematical algorithm, okay? They can use fancy word, but believe me, it's just mathematical algorithm. That he produced a stick for 800 AD to about 1900 AD is all flat because it changed. It changed very tiny amount. So small that actually it doesn't mean anything. 0.1 or 0.2 degrees Celsius, so small. It doesn't mean, the one that I talk about, the change is 1 degree at least, to 5-6 times bigger than what he said. And then he just said it's like this, and then it warmed up because of the blade, which is the warming because of rising carbon dioxide. But he forgot to explain to you, this warming of the temperature started way before even the human part of the atmospheric carbon dioxide could be anything meaningful. This is part of the problem. It's all been crazy from day one. When this thing was published in 1999, I was the first few guy who raised a hand at the back of the class and say, excuse me, Professor Mann, he used to be my friend, by the way. Now he will never answer me. He used to exchange email with me because, we more or less share the same passion, want to understand things. Now he just say that his story is the only one that is correct. but it's not bared out by any data that we know. That's the problem. It's all mathematical products. This is how scary the whole world can be. And United Nations, the IPCC group that I mentioned, promoted his work, turning it into a major hero, because he has solved one of these old puzzle problem that climatologists over millennia has been trying to solve since the day of the Greeks, to try to understand how climate change. And this guy come along say that it look like this, only CO2 does it. And that's the problem.
So, I mean,
It just ain't so.
what you're, I mean, some of this is very complex, but in the way you're describing it, if he's saying the warming period began before there was a meaningful addition of CO2 into the atmosphere caused by humans, even I can understand that.
Yes,
Right.
that's the truth.
So I would assume that lots of scientists who do this for a living might be asking the same question. Why don't they speak up?
This is the problem. The whole problem in science these days is related to funding. How science is funded. That philosophy, I wish to not get too much into it. This is part of the reason why I want to be totally independent and get out of this whole system, right? But it's how science is about funding. Even if you don't get money directly, it will influence the graduate students and on and so forth. All these other related effects, you know. And many people are afraid to speak up. But I tell you, if you really put all the scientists to an honest kind of polling, if you science, but science is not about polling too. All it takes is one to be correct.
Yes.
That's the problem, right? Einstein used to, when he formulated the famous general relativity or special relativity, actually, that was criticized. That basically talk about speed of light is constant. So time and space are relative,
Yes.
right? Time can be dilated. Space is also slightly different because the speed of light is constant. Special relativity is based on that concept. Then 100 of these Berlin academicians tried to wrote a pamphlet, say that Einstein is wrong, but they were also why? What are the details that is wrong? And then Einstein indeed answered like this. Why would you need 100? You know, if I were to be wrong, one would suffice. I mean, that's the theme of the science. Science is so bad because it's so totally upside down, inside out. COVID is another case, you know. So let's stick to climate stuff. People are afraid to speak up. I don't know why actually. I was young. I had to worry about my 3 kids, where they eat and all that stuff. You know, buffet all the time, just kidding. The greatest American invention. What you can eat. This is truly entrepreneur, by the way. Anyway, we have enough food. No problem. That's why food, I don't think, is also a problem in this world. Even material resources, right? All you think is have to think like Julian Simon type. You know, we can generate everything. The only problem we have is lack of imagination, narrow-mindedness, and all this anti-America sentiment, put it this way. America is among the best hope for humanity, you know, to put forward. We have the foundation document, the Constitution, for God's sake. That is the most beautiful thing that we could ever imagine. And why don't we use it properly, right? People are just trashing on it every day, right? Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so yes, I think science is a problem now because of funding structure. People won't speak up. I don't know why. I think it's natural for people to be afraid, but you can only be afraid for so long. For me, I was frustrated because I was not afraid ever since I was in science. Because I'm in science because I love science. This is why, from my own perspective, I'm just very sad to see that science is being trampled by all these other non-science forces. You know? That's why when I look at COVID also, I cannot stand by and say nothing. On COVID-19, there's so many things wrong with it. That's why I want to pre-advertise. With my group, series.science.com, we work with a bunch of people. One of the good guests for you, potential, will be Professor Harvey Rich. He said he's been interviewed by you twice.
Yes.
Even guys like Bob Malone, we work together, produce a paper. So when the paper come out, hopefully we can have them on your show so that they can tell more story. We want to provide the medical community or even the world to document this episode of dark ages in medical sciences. Something went terribly wrong. The mask never really worked. The vaccine never really worked. All of this doesn't work. The lockdown doesn't work. And why are we doing this? Now they're trying to scare with another news scare. All over the world now. Newspaper. This morning I just got one newspaper from my sister who had to start there. Oh, they start masking up in Malaysia now. Because cases started to increase. The usual story. I laugh in a serious way because I see this is another one of those attempts again to try to scare people. So I did digress now. Science is just so complicated now that every aspect of the science that I look at, I've become very unhappy. Science is no longer able to do where science leads. This is the theme of my series, that's Sign.com. With few only colleagues, I don't have enough funding. I just hope to get as many donation, by the way. Donate, but don't tell us anything, do anything. Trust us, because we are decent scientists. You can look at our publication record, that we are able to produce the most interesting and pure work. Like IPCC, they had to reply to us. 2 years ago, we published a very important paper. One of my journalist friend, a colleague, wrote a paper, newspaper article, and then he go and ask IPCC, why are you guys not citing this paper? They use the excuse to say that, oh, these people publish late. We have a deadline here, red line. Oh, if you don't publish before some date, like 2021, okay, like January or 2021, then we won't include your work. So we published in August, so they wouldn't include my work. But they forgot to say that they claim themselves, they proclaim, UN IPCC proclaim themselves to be the best of the scientific world, produce the most updated and all that. But immediately their report came out, they're already outdated because they haven't included my work, which is the most comprehensive review of how the sun affects the climate. That's the work we did. So this year, just 2 months ago, we published 2 more papers convincingly show that even the thermometer data that they show you is not what it is. It's actually not measuring climate. It's measuring urban heat island changes. Something that I think everybody can understand. If you go to the inner part of the big city, like TC is one of the best examples. I have a graph to show that. You go there, inner city is much warmer than outside because of concrete retaining all the heat, or you change all the surfaces of the surface become impervious, between there's no breathing, no water going in and out, things like that. And what we show is that it's not a phenomenon just on local side. You average over this, you can see the effect all over the northern hemisphere. This is very powerful new work that we
So concrete and asphalt raise the temperatures more than CO2.
And that's what they're measuring. And then they tell you this is global temperature. And then we provide an alternative. We say, why don't we go look at rural station that is available? And guess what our result found? Completely different story from the picture, the narrative that's coming out from this data set, thermometer data that combine urban and rural. Okay? We show rural only. We can tell you that you can immediately offer a different answer. For example, it's the sun that does it. We show that. Well, we don't know that is the answer. We just simply show you that the IPCC and all these so-called scientists from NASA, NOAA, and all of them are not doing their due diligence. They are putting you very bad quality data product. Not only that, they hide it. Some of them is so difficult to get the data. Okay?
But it should never be difficult to get data.
I'm sorry, Tucker. This is how the problem in science now is so many serious.
But I thought transparency of data was science.
I was hoping. I always believe in that. That's why everything that we publish is there. Because we got it from somewhere. Here's the data. Use it. Check us. If we're wrong, tell us we're wrong. That is one thing that I can always promise you. I'm not here to try to gain favor or anything. If I'm wrong and I don't know, I tell you I don't know, Tucker. A lot of this thing, I'm really under a lot of careful consideration. Really a lot of deep meditation, thinking about this topic. What I think is very problematic, I'm so glad to have this opportunity to go this far, to be able to talk for this long now, is that really the IPCC product is actually substandard. Of course, they have a different mandate. Their mandate is political, right? To provide policy. We understand that. But how many people really understand that pure science doesn't support anything they say? I mean, in the beginning of this COP28 meeting, the chairman, or this guy from UAE, United Arab Emirates, the chairman, I don't know his name, Sultan Al-Jaber or something, he was saying that there's no scientific reasoning to say that we should phase out fossil fuels. He's right. But then he backed off because of all this, everybody's herd mentality, everybody's doing the bad thing. Science is not about that. They all agree now. They all agree to phase out, right? For some kind of agreement. You know, that everybody declare that they're going to do that they're going to phase out. I don't even know how, actually. Why? Why are you doing this? And then one of the claims is that they're going to triple the amount of solar and wind power. That is a sad story. You know, of the amount that we spend that we can document, some $3.6 trillion. They spent almost $2 trillion on solar and wind power over the last, 5-10 years or so. And then what they did is that they spent more of the money, $2 trillion on solar and wind. And solar wind can only account for only 3% of the world power, 85% from fossil fuel, as you can see, hydropower and nuclear. Nuclear is another puzzle. I checked with all my nuclear expert friends that have been working for years on nuclear power. Nuclear power is one of the saddest stories. I believe that we actually have almost a solution in hand. Not the fusion, of course. It's the fast reactor, or the good generation of nuclear power, peaceful use of that. Won't even generate nuclear weapon. We can do all of that technology. The only thing barrier is red tape, environmentally scared of radiation. All these are the problem. We almost have all of that in hand. The power can last. One estimate shows that if we were to use it at the demand of that by 2050, we can have enough power for 2,700 years. That's far more than any of the fossil fuel can promise. And we're still not doing it. We're not doing. America is so far behind now. We just make one in Georgia, one of the nuclear plant. That's so overcost because of all the red tape. That is so embarrassing. Their numbers. I mean, it costing 1,000 or 2,000 times even more than what Korea, and even Korea now is a major guy who make this nuclear power plant for different any country who wants to do it, right? I mean, Korea, India, they are making it at much cheaper cost. And the design, French design are the best, right? French, they're all doing that. And we're not doing it. China, of course, left and right doing that. But we're not doing anything. Oh, we're trying to tell you that we're going to shut off fossil fuel, increase solar and wind. Are you joking? Even 3 times more will be 9%. I don't know. Can you turn on your light only 9% of time? You should shut all this light off now. You're overusing it.
And it destroys the actual environment.
Exactly.
Wind farms.
This is a kind of a very bad incentive that they don't realize. It's about this kind of people that is so out of their mind, in my view, that they really should be cautious. Somebody should just ding on their head. Guys, don't keep saying those things. You better think twice. Or consult somebody that knows something that is honest,
You spent 31 years at Harvard. Would you be able to say this out loud at Harvard?
Actually, back then I also didn't care, but most of the time I get called into the director's office, this and that. They're always trying to, oh, why are you saying that? Why are you saying this? I say, well, I'm a scientist. I should say whatever I want to say. Not only that, the problem when I was at Harvard, part of the reason I quit, as I tried to explain, is about job requirement, but another one is a bit of censorship. I can only do certain things, I cannot do certain things. Like I would never be able to write paper on COVID-19. I would never be able to work on, let's say, environmental air pollution issues, so-called NOx or SOx and all these other things, or mercury and things like that. I study a lot on those issues because I personally are concerned, so I dig into the literature, one thing after another, basically because I sleep very little, so I really do a lot of things. I flip every rock, pebbles, anything you want. So I study a lot and produce a result that is good enough that can be making a lot of scientific, but I never publish them because they simply won't allow.
They wouldn't allow you?
Yes, it's about a letter allowing, because they say it doesn't fit the theme of the Center for Astrophysics. So I don't want to talk bad about that institution, but it is the finest astrophysics institution in the world. In terms of instrument building, in terms of technology, we can produce the best. You often look at the X-ray picture of the sun. Those are from very fine camera that we built with multi-coding layers, because the X-ray, they come in very slowly and then they're going to diffuse, come out, but we make very fine way to catch them so they can come up. So the image are crystal clear. You can see all the structure on the sun. It's made by my center. They're good scientists. Except that when it comes down to a larger picture of science, shh, don't say this, don't say that, this and that. And then all of that. This is why even at Harvard, I quit taking money from NASA and NSF, all these other places in 2004, because I'm beginning to think that science being so unaccountable, funded by taxpayer, that all these people, it's so unconscionable. So I personally chose that. That is nobody to blame but myself. But I chose to take only from foundation who are willing to give me money, right? So I wrote those kind of proposal and then got to go through the director's office, this and that, right? I have a very, very happy and fruitful career. Everybody can look up my publication list. It's very long. And not only that, it's not the number that counts. It's the quality of the paper. I always want to remind people, I don't like talking about how many thousands of paper you write, this and that. It's not important. which paper that is really important for certain issues. That's important that if you are able to show that, that's good. That's what I mean. All my papers are basically under a lot of this serious thinking and serious evaluation, checking and rechecking before I would care to write about anything. Because you don't want to write anything that's wrong tomorrow. You want to, something that can write. But science is basically garbage can now. These scientific papers, I categorically would even make this statement. I would make the statement that about 80 to 90% of the paper published in so-called climate science today should not be published. But everybody have NSF grant, everybody have all this grant. You see how the inflation goes, just like the other day, you hear that Yale University, a large part of it, most of the students on 2022 or something all got grade A grade, grade A, they diluted the grade. But Harvey Rich assured me that in medical sciences and hard sciences, Harvey Rich is the professor at Yale University, he teaches in the medical school, so he said no, not true. So he tried to assure me he has quality. Maybe not in his class, but Harvey not in any other class, right? Anyway.
So I want to ask you, just as a kind of last topic, which is not related to this, but we talked about it off the air, and I think it's really interesting. You were telling me that you see God or evidence of God in math.
Well,
can you explain what you were saying? Or maybe I misread what you were saying.
No, you did not. I have been closer and closer to God in the sense that because it takes me a long time, I'm rather rebellious. I have to say, damn it, God, you gotta prove it to me. Show it to me, buddy. Just kidding. No, I'm sorry to anybody. No offense. But I really say it in that way. You talk to yourself in a sense. But in many, many moments in history of physics or mathematics, things come out. You see, mathematics, is this very pure world that it seems to have no connection to real world physics.
That's right.
It's true, it's complex number, is one of them, but it appears in quantum mechanics, right? It's so beautiful. But one of the things that sometimes you see in the equation is so amazing. When you formulate equation, maybe it's not right, maybe it's this and that, maybe you doubt yourself. But one of the most beautiful equations was the one that derived by Paul Dirac. He's a professor at Cambridge University, but he retired in Florida, by the way. He died in Florida, Tallahassee. It's a refuge for him because he doesn't like to talk. He will sit there for 5 days, he don't talk. One day, all of a sudden, he talk. But anyway, he formulated, he's a beautiful man. Paul Dirac, he formulated this relativistic equation for electrons. But in one of the equations, the solution come out to be a negative sign. Not only that, there's a square root involved, so it's strange behavior. There's a negative sign involved, but it has the exact property, like an electron and all that stuff. How come? Everybody say you're crazy, you're stupid, this and that, right? He's not even he didn't, no sweat, buddy. He just say, I am right. Many years later, a few years later, it is shown in Caltech by Carl Anderson to show there's actually such a thing called positron. The opposite, the brothers of electron. There's such a thing. And then if you ask yourself, how is it possible? Right? There's something, this is just out of nowhere. Where does this thing come from? And then in mathematical sciences, there's a lot of things like this, like geometry. There's an even more famous thing about in geometry is called Calabi-Yau manifold that related to string theory. This thing was basically a revisit of Einstein's general relativity equation, asking itself whether is it possible to have closed curvature in space-time that you actually don't require even gravity to be there. And they show that Calabi was trying to prove this Yao, Xingdong Yao is one of the great mathematicians, right? He's at Harvard, but he retired, now he go to China, right? He was the one who tried to disprove this thing, but he turns out to be true. That it's true that you can have closed curvature in space-time that without gravity even. So that added even more rich in this world. That from mathematics to real world, we already have enough hard time understanding Einstein. This guy added even more. And his discovery was in the 70s and things like that, So there's so many examples and incidents like this. Just have to tell you that you have to bow down. You have to occasionally take a deep breath. There may be some ever presence of these forces that allow us to illuminate our life. And I tell you, God has given us all this light that tell us that we have to follow the light and do the best we can, rather than every day devouring planet Earth, saying that we are the Satan, we are the evil people. These people are constantly trying to make all of us a lesser human being. I would never allow them anyway. So good luck, for those people like Al Gore and all that who think that they're high and mighty, right? And trying to always lecture us on trying to cut down on fossil fuel because we're going to hurt the planet Earth. I say, Al Gore, do you ever think twice? Who are you to think that you can actually try to save the planet Earth even? Because they always use the word, I'm trying to save the planet. I don't know who gives them the right to save the planet Earth. Same with this experiment that they're trying to do, by the way. The experiment to say that we must cut down CO2 emission. I told you CO2 is good for life. Because I asked Al Gore, indeed, when I asked Al Gore the question in UC Santa Barbara, is what? Is that CO2 is gas of life. Who give you the audacity to cut down this? Then are you going to be responsible for the ecological and humanitarian, all this crisis? Even we know rising CO2 affect even plants, especially food production, right? Maybe not exact number we know, but it does positively, right? We have technology to help it, better seed, better all this fertilization, all this other thing. But who gives them the idea to do that, to cut down? Because it's generally going to be good for life, because you have to push them around, because nobody should give them the authority. So far, I don't think anyone can answer that question for me. So I tell them to please bow down to God. Really answer to that question first before you do anything else, because it's ridiculous for them to claim that they have the upper moral and ethical high ground to try to prescribe everybody to live in certain conditions that they choose. But they themselves don't follow the rules. And they tell us to take a bus. Al Gore always even tell people to take a bus, Al Gore. My God, I say, Al Gore, you take a bus from Tennessee to Massachusetts, I'll be waiting for you down there. Please. I mean, this guy is just out of this world, man. I'm sorry, Al Gore, but you can still call me.
Can you, really soon, thank you. But before you go, last thing, for viewers who want to know more about what you do, can you say once again where they can read it?
Please, I hope that I don't disappoint anyone, but please come to series-sign.com. And I want to make one plug for my good friend, Hal Shurtleff. As I get older and older, including my own kids, 3 kids have been going to the Camp Constitution at New Hampshire, and we also wanted to invite Tucker Carlson to come because Vivek Ramaswamy came last summer, and because we are a very, very small group. We are a tiny little group called Camp Constitution. So campconstitution.net. We offer basically family, kind of a Christian kind of a background, but we don't talk about Christ all the time, but we talk about Bibles, we talk about Constitution, we talk about science. So I'm the science instructor. I've been doing that for almost 6-7 years now. So I've been doing every year, I will give 1 or 2 classes, depends on how many, whatever they want me to do, I will do. And my own kids came to those things, and then, we play music, we have campfire. It's a family event. Used to be that's focused on kids, but this day, I'm sorry, too many adults started to come. So we have even people like my good friend, Lord Christopher Monckton from England, he spoke twice. So small little group, but if anybody who thinks that, you have the time and even come and learn what we do here and emulate in your own city and towns and all that, people from Wisconsin, please come. People from California, please come. We have it in New Hampshire every year. Every summer we have this camp, and it's a very good thing. So campconstitution.net, okay? And I talked to your friend Vince Allison from Maryland. I also called him before I came. He's one of the good guys, right? Yeah.
Please. In the United States, we often refer to our main sources of energy as fossil fuels. Oil, natural gas, coal, they're fossil fuels because they come from fossils, ancient organic materials.
just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that local recordings are...
Where is my marker? You are up here. You're staying at where you're at, right? Are you there now? That top pond?
I'm in that pond. I mean, yeah. Or the little bottom, like, looks like a vein.
Interesting to learn who Jeffrey Epstein hung around with while he was alive. People who flew on his airplane, people who stayed on his private island in the Caribbean, those who had dinner at his home off Fifth Avenue in New York. And to some extent, those names are coming out, not all of them. But we know a lot of the people who are in Jeffrey Epstein's life, and we have for several years now. But on another level, that whole story seems like a bit of a sideshow, because it doesn't answer the main mysteries surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's life or death. And there are 3 of them, almost none of which is ever discussed in the media. The first is, who did Jeffrey Epstein work for? What did Jeffrey Epstein do for a living, and on whose behalf? We don't know. The second question is, where did all the money come from? Hundreds of millions of dollars that passed through his hands over many years. And where is it now? We don't know that either. And the third question may be the most pressing of all, which is, what happened to Jeffrey Epstein? On August 10, 2019, he was found dead in the Federal Correction Facility in Manhattan, one of the most secure places in the world. Did he kill himself, as the government has claimed ever since, or was he murdered? Well, the overwhelming evidence suggests that he was in fact murdered, and that the U.S. government, including the Attorney General of the United States, covered up that murder. These are the questions that matter most, and they're exactly the ones not being addressed in the news media. Why is that? We decided to speak to someone who has insight into this question, and that is Jeffrey Epstein's only surviving relative. His name is Mark Epstein. He was Jeffrey Epstein's brother, separated by 18 months. He's a successful real estate developer in New York, and he's very concerned for his own safety. So the interview that follows is one that you will listen to rather than see. Mark Epstein refused to appear on camera, but we think what he has to say is worth hearing. Here it is. Do you think your brother killed himself?
Not now. No. When I first heard he was dead from suicide, I had no reason to doubt it, so I accepted that. But then after the autopsy, and after Bill Barr made that asinine statement, I said, this was not a suicide.
But when you first heard the news, you thought it was a possibility that he killed himself.
Yeah, I accepted it as a fact. I heard it on the news. The government didn't notify me, as they said. I heard it on CNN in the morning of the 10th.
And you're his only survivor. You're the only surviving relative.
Yes, yes. He has no children, and our parents are gone. And there's no other siblings.
When did you start to think that he did not kill himself?
Well, after the autopsy, and both pathologists, the city pathologist and Dr. Barden, came out of the autopsy, and they said, this doesn't look like a suicide. It looks more like a homicide.
So what did you do then?
Well, I figured I'd have to look into this and see what's going on.
Were you shocked that he might have been killed?
It came as a surprise, yeah.
So as his only surviving relative, what did you do to find out what happened to him?
Well, I started to inquire about what took place. The Justice Department was supposedly investigating. The initial death certificate said pending when it said cause of death, which means pending further investigation.
Yes.
So, but then a few days later, it was declared a suicide by the chief pathologist, who was not at the autopsy. And the questions became, what investigation was done in such a short period of time to make her determine it was a suicide, or was she basing it on Bill Barr's statement?
And who was the chief pathologist who made that declaration?
Dr. Roman.
That was the pathologist who was there.
No, that was, Sampson. Barbara Sampson was the chief pathologist. Dr.
Right.
Roman did the actual autopsy with Dr. Barden.
So Barbara Sampson is the person who declared it officially a suicide, and she was not, as you said, at the autopsy, and she was not present for it.
Correct. And when they call it a suicide, they stop investigating. Because if there's a suicide, there's really nothing to investigate.
Right.
If it's a suicide. Because somebody killed themselves, case closed. So that's how they can just sort of cover it up. They never did an investigation. They never interviewed the EMTs that were called to the jail. They never interviewed the hospital personnel where his body was shipped. I can't get any answers as to what investigation was done. When I met with the Justice Department people a few months after the death, every question I asked was answered by saying, after a thorough investigation, we determined it was a suicide. It was like them pleading the fifth. I got the same answer to every question I asked.
So, did you speak to Barbara Sampson, the official who ruled this a suicide?
No, I haven't been able to get to her.
Oh, she never called you?
No.
So in her public explanation, she has been asked about this. We tried to reach out to her. She refused to speak to us for reasons we don't understand. But in her official explanation, she suggested that she ruled it a suicide, effectively overruling the judgment of the people who actually performed the autopsy, because your brother had attempted suicide previously.
Yeah, but that's been shown to be false. You can listen to David Schoen, his attorney, on the podcast, the Crime Waves podcast. He explains that Jeff was attacked by his cellmate, but he didn't want to report it as such because he was afraid of retaliation.
But every news account of his initial injuries in the weeks before his death said that he had tried to kill himself in his cell. He was found in fetal position on the floor after a failed suicide attempt, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, once somebody says that, then everyone picks up the same story, and then it becomes, the truth, just because it's been repeated so many times. But the fact is, he did not attempt suicide that first time.
So if he didn't try and kill himself the first time, then the medical examiner had no basis to declare this a suicide.
Exactly. Plus, there's reasons why he wouldn't kill himself then. He had a hearing scheduled to appeal the bail decision coming up in a few days. And the bail was being increased. So there's a chance he could have got bail. Even as unpalatable as that might have been to some people, in the United States, you're entitled to bail under certain conditions. But, so I could see if he went for the hearing for bail and it was denied, then I can see him taking himself out if he didn't want to spend a year in jail waiting for a trial.
Yeah.
But not a few days before. That makes no sense.
In your conversations with him and in your conversations with the people who were in contact with him at the final weeks of his life, was there any indication at all that he was suicidal at any point?
No, I had no conversations with him once he was arrested. I spoke to him the day before he was arrested. He actually called me from Paris, just their usual, how you doing kind of phone call. And the next day, his attorneys called me and told me he was arrested. And that was the last time I spoke with him. I didn't speak to him or see him while he was in jail.
But having spoken to his lawyers and people whom he communicated with from jail, did anybody say that he seemed suicidal?
No, everybody was shocked that it was a suicide. Nobody thought he was going to kill himself. Nobody thought he would do that.
So what's interesting is that the Attorney General of the United States at the time, Attorney General Barr, said publicly and then wrote in his memoir that he had concluded conclusively that this was a suicide based on two pieces of evidence. One, the medical examiner, the person who performed the autopsy, declared it a suicide, which is a lie. That didn't happen. And two, because he had viewed the videotape at the entrance to the tier, to the cell block where your brother was being held. What do you make of that explanation?
Well, when I heard Barr's statement that he said he personally saw the videotape and he concluded it was a suicide because nobody went in or out, that's when it hit me that he's covering this up, because there's two sort of fallacies in that. One, I thought, why is the Attorney General of the United States, who I imagine to be a busy guy, why is he personally watching the videotape? Couldn't he have two people in his office watch the videotape and say, hey, Bill, nobody went in or out? Wouldn't that suffice? And two, to assume that somebody could get to that door, go inside, kill somebody, get out completely undetected is just ridiculous, because I believe there are 6 levels of security before you get to that door. So to assume that somebody could do it that way is crazy. And any third-grade investigator will tell you that there was anywhere from 7 to 14 people on the other side of that door, on the tier, that could have killed somebody. And I had been told from another source, I've been getting a lot of information from those sources, that cell doors were left unlocked that night. I don't know how many cell doors or whose cell doors, but if cell doors were left unlocked, then somebody could have went into Jeff's cell, killed him, went back into their cell, undetected. Now, in the Justice Department report, it says that from 3 cells, you could see Jeff's cell door. But if you look at the photographs of the tier, there's tiny windows in the cell doors. So in order to see Jeff's cell door from another cell, you'd have to be standing at that window inside the other cells in the middle of the night looking towards Jeff's cell. And if somebody crept low beneath the height of that window, you wouldn't see them. So the fact that, to say that he could be seen from 3 other cells and they didn't see anything, well, chances are the other prisoners were sleeping in those cells if they had nothing to do with it. So again, it's just like a cover-up line.
Right. So in other words, the Attorney General said that nobody moved on to the cell block according to the videotape, but that is irrelevant because if your brother was murdered, he was almost certainly murdered by someone who was already on the cell block.
Exactly.
Right. So given that, and it's obvious and logical when you think about it for about 10 seconds, the identities of the other inmates on that cell block are critical. Your brother was alone in his cell.
Right.
So any one of those inmates could have killed your brother. Do we know who they were?
No, I can't find out who they were. There were 7 other cells, each with 1 or 2 people in them.
Yes.
Which means it's either anywhere from 7 to 14 people, other than my brother on the tier that night. I don't know who they are, or I know one, that guy Tattaglione, who was Jeff's cellmate for a while. He was there for a long time. So if Jeff was killed, it's a possibility that somebody was planted in there. Cell doors were left unlocked. And then from what I understand, a number of prisoners were transferred off of that tier after the death. So if somebody was planted, he killed Jeff, and a day or 2 later he's transferred out, and he disappears into the ether. I don't know who the prisoners were. I'd like to find out who they are, and where are they now?
So there's, of course, a record of this. These are federal inmates in a facility run by the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prisons overseen by the Department of Justice. So it's not like nobody knows who they were.
Now they have to have a record.
Right. But they will not release that to you.
I haven't been able to get anything. Right.
Let's go down the chain of documents that might explain this mystery. So the first would be the records of the first responders, the EMTs, who arrived at the scene and moved your brother's body from the cell to...
No, that's what I had thought, but when I spoke to an EMT, when they got to the prison, Jeff was already in the infirmary. The prison people moved him to the infirmary, which they were not supposed to do, because when he was found, he was clearly dead. The autopsy showed he was dead for at least 2 hours before he was found. So at that point, they're supposed to leave the body and call the medical examiner's office so they can come, take photographs, do the initial testing, whatever they do when they find a dead body. But that wasn't done. They moved him to the infirmary. And
they moved his corpse to the infirmary, but notified nobody else?
Well, a 911 call was made to get the EMTs, and we can't get a copy of the 911 call, which is, we hear 911 calls for all sorts of other cases. This one seems to be missing. When they got there, he was in the infirmary, and he was clearly dead because, like I said, he'd been dead for 2 hours. And there was a photograph of him being wheeled out of the prison where he was intubated, squeezing an air bulb to try to get, so I was questioning, why are they trying to put, pump into a clearly dead body? Were they trying to make it look like he was alive so that he could be declared dead in the hospital? Because what I've been told, normally when they find dead bodies in the prisons, they want to ship them to the hospital so they're declared dead in the hospital. Because an unwritten rule is nobody dies in prison. They don't want to deal with it, so they ship them to the hospital where he's declared dead. And when I questioned the EMT why they were intubating him, I said because he was dead for at least 2 hours. The response I got was, how do you know that? It was a kind of a strange response, but I knew that from the autopsy.
So we don't know who moved him out of the cell. No person has come forward to say, I moved this corpse from the cell.
No. But I was also told that in the infirmary and in the hospital, there was somebody with a handheld video camera all the time running, videotaping everything. Where are those tapes? That's another question.
Despite the fact that your brother was dead in his cell and had been dead for 2 hours.
At least 2 hours.
At least 2 hours. Yeah. Somebody cut off his clothing and redressed the corpse in hospital scrubs, in a gown.
Yeah, I have a photograph of him in a hospital gown on a gurney in the hospital where, his arms were put through the sleeves. It's one of those gowns you tie in the back. So the question becomes, who decided to dress a dead body in a hospital gown? Normally they're either in a body bag or covered in it by a sheet.
That's bizarre.
Yes.
And 4.5 years later, you have no answers at all on any of these questions.
None. And I've tried to get the PCR report, or the ACR report, which is the report that the EMTs fill out on every call they make. It's just their record-keeping system, and these are filed with the fire department. And as this video I sent you showed, they have no record of it.
So there are essentially no records of what happened at all. There's no videotape, the cameras were broken, the guards who are supposed to be keeping watch were asleep. They were convicted of lying, but then they were pardoned by a judge later. Apparently one still works for the federal government.
I believe so, yes. I tried to talk to the guards. I couldn't get to them. I tried to contact them through their attorneys, and I couldn't get to them.
Okay, so then there was famously an investigation into this overseen by the Department of Justice's head investigator. Where's that?
Well, they came out with a report, a few months ago, and for 4 years we've been trying to find out what position his body was in when it was found, and we couldn't get an answer to that either. But in the report, it described how he was found. It said that he was in a seated position with his legs extended in front of him, and he was hanging from the top bunk. So if you picture that, basically all of his body weight, or most of his body weight, was hanging by this noose around his neck, or the ligature around his neck. He had some weight on his feet, but the bulk of his 180-some pounds was hanging. And they said when they cut him down, or tore him down, his buttocks was an inch and a half above the ground. Again, which means his body weight was on his neck. Now, if somebody's hanging like that, the noose or ligature would ride up high on the neck and go high behind your ears to where it was tied to. But the autopsy photographs show that the ligature mark on Jeff's neck is in the middle of his neck and goes straight back, as if someone put a rope around his neck and strangled him, like Carlo in The Godfather, in the car.
Or the electrical cord to his seat.
Or the electrical cord, or whatever was there, but it doesn't look like the fabric from a bed sheet.
So if it seems clear just from the photographs of his autopsy that he was strangled with, say, a cord, wouldn't you test that cord for his DNA?
Yeah, nobody seems to know where that is. Also, the way they said he was hanging, and again, he had to be there for at least 2 hours. When you die, the blood in your body settles to gravity takes the blood down to the lowest parts of your body, and they become blotchy from the blood pooling under the skin. So the back of his legs and his buttocks should have what's called lividity. They should have this blotchiness, like bruising, look, on the back of his legs and his buttocks. Autopsy photographs show that his legs are clean, clear. So he couldn't have been hanging that way for more than, for 2+ hours. He'd have blood pooling in his legs. That's not the case.
So did the report explain the discrepancies from the autopsy? That bones in his neck were broken that are not seen in hangings, but are seen in strangulations?
Yeah, those broken bones are not, they're seen in strangulation, but because he had 3 bones, it's also from karate chop to the neck will break bones like that. And that seems to be what I've spoken to military people, a preferred way of killing people is you karate chop them in the neck really hard, you collapse their windpipe, and that disorients them and incapacitates them, and then usually they just break their neck, or you can strangle them. So the breaks in his neck are more consistent with a karate chop than what's called a soft hanging. When you tie something around your neck and you sit down or hang yourself from something soft, like, unfortunately Robin Williams or Andre, Bourdain, was it, who killed himself?
Anthony Bourdain.
Right, those are soft hangings, as opposed to, Brooks in Shawshank Redemption, who stood on a chair and sort of jumped off. That's a hard hanging. That will snap the bones in your neck. But that wasn't what happened with Jeff.
So Dr. Michael Baden, who participated, was present at the autopsy, has participated in over 1,000 autopsies of prison deaths.
I have never seen 3 fractures like this in a suicidal hanging. Going over 1,000 jail hangings, suicides, in the New York City state prisons over the past 40, 50 years, no one had 3 fractures.
His fairly firm conclusion is that this was not a suicide. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. He was holding off on that determination, pending determination of how the body was found, which we finally, now that they say the way the body was found, it just only shows that it was not that way. The autopsy shows it's not that way, which further convinced Dr. Bodden that this was not a hanging, not a suicide.
So here's what we wind up with at the end of all this. We wind up with a high-profile inmate in the most secure federal facility in the country's largest city who was somehow murdered, clearly with the knowledge of the Justice Department, and the Attorney General of the United States lies about it, which he did, and there's no reason to do that except to cover up the crime. So what does that tell us about this?
Oh, it's a scary thought that you could be killed in prison by the government. Yeah. Because again, my life would have been a lot easier if he committed suicide. I could have put it behind me. But it's obvious at this point in time that it was not a suicide. And so somebody killed him. So who killed him and why?
Right. So in talking to all the people around him or people who were connected with him one way or another in the final weeks of his life, have you detected a fear in those people in talking about this?
No, not really. I don't think they're fearful of anything. I was the one getting the death threats, not them. I don't think they did.
Why were you getting death threats?
Well, when Jeff died, people tried to link me to his activities in some way, shape, or form. Again, I had not seen Jeff for 7 years prior to his death. We were in communication. We spoke, we emailed, but we lived 2 different lives. So I didn't know his inner circle, and he didn't know mine. But people tried to link me to his activities. And I was in contact with the FBI and the New York Police Department about the death threats. And I had, at times, had armed guards. When I went to the autopsy, I had armed guards with me to protect myself.
From whom?
From whoever killed Jeff.
But anyone who could murder someone in a federal detention facility obviously has a lot of power.
Yeah, well, I was trying to protect myself as best as I could. Yeah.
Do you fear for, I notice you're not appearing on camera. You've asked not to appear on camera.
Yeah, because I don't want to be recognized. I travel a lot, and there's no need for me. This is not about me. This is about Jeff's death.
Did you have any inkling at all that your brother was involved in anything that might get him killed by a government?
No. Like I said, I wasn't involved with his day-to-day life, and his troubles he had with the charges with the girls was from the early 2006 is when he first got into trouble, and he spent time in jail for that.
Well, that's a question that's occurred to me. I mean, he went through all this, whatever you think of it, and then he was charged again for the same things, effectively.
Right. I mean, from what I understand, he had a non-prosecution agreement with the federal government on that when he made his plea deal. So he believed he was safe from further prosecution. And then he flew home from Paris in July, and they arrested him on the same charges. And I believe his defense was going to be, well, hey, I have a non-prosecution agreement with the federal government. And supposedly they say, well, that was like the Southern District or some area. Well, as far as I know, we have one federal government. And if you make a deal with the federal government, it covers the entire country.
Has it occurred that maybe the point of rearresting him on the same charges was to get him into a facility where he could be killed?
I've shied away from speculating about all this. I try to stick with the facts, but that's a possibility.
Do you think other governments might have been involved in this, not just the U.S. government?
I would, on the surface, say no. I don't see why. I mean, again, I don't know what he was doing day to day, so, again, that's speculation, which I don't want to do, but I don't think so. On the surface, I don't see why.
What information are you still seeking about his death?
Well, who were the prisoners on that ward that night? how long were they there for? Now, if somebody was on that ward for, a long time, like his roommate, then, obviously they weren't planted there, 2 years ago to kill Jeff Venn. So who was transferred onto that ward in a week or two before he was killed? And where are they now? Where were they transferred to? Were these real prisoners, or was it a plant?
Have you asked the Inspector General at the Department of Justice?
We asked all these questions, yes, way back when. And we get no answer. Yeah, after a thorough investigation, we've determined it was a suicide.
But no one's given you any details.
After a careful investigation, we've determined it was a suicide. That's what I was getting from them. I'm doing to you what they were doing to me.
What's your next move?
I'm still trying to find the information. I have, FOIA's out to try to get the medical reports, try to get the 911 call. And just to get people thinking about this. People shouldn't, like you said, people shouldn't be complacent with the fact that somebody was killed in federal prison under federal protection.
Yeah, and officials at the very highest levels are lying about it.
Yeah, and people should be aware of that. Whether we ever figure out exactly what happened, I don't know, but I don't want people to think he committed suicide, because that's not the case.
Mark Epstein, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Parts, big impact. Buy online, operate anywhere.
The following is a conversation with Elon Musk, his fourth time on this, the
Marie Jo. I want to get the language right tonight. So right that everybody here will cry out. But I want to get the language right tonight. So right that everybody here will cry out.
Alright, I'm out of here. I took some pictures. I made an Instagram reel. Oh, I don't think I cleaned my brushes. No, I didn't. Alright, I think that's everything. All right. I'll catch y'all guys on the flip side. Peace.